Today I'm reviewing the Skytech Gaming Aqua desktop PC with the Ryzen 7 7800X3D, RX 9060XT 16GB, 32GB DDR5, and a 1TB Gen4 SSD. If you want to check current pricing or availability, it's linked below. I've been using this system on my desk for daily gaming, creative tasks, and general desktop work. These impressions reflect extended use, launching games, handling background apps, watching content, and shifting between tasks, not just glancing at numbers. Let's set expectations clearly. This isn't a boutique ultra-premium build with exotic cooling, and it isn't positioned as a compact console replacement box. What this system aims for is strong 1080p and capable 1440p gaming performance, paired with plenty of memory and storage for modern libraries. Real-world performance in real use. The Ryzen 7 7800X3D makes a meaningful difference in gaming where CPU performance and cache matter. In competitive and esports titles, like Valorant, Fortnite, CSGO, frame rates stay high and stable on high settings. That leads to smooth, predictable play without the frequent dips that matter in fast-paced scenes. In heavier AAA games at 1440p, this configuration handles high settings well. You'll be tuning individual settings in the most demanding titles to keep frame rates where you want them, but the experience stays consistent and moves fluidly through cutscenes and action alike. At 1080p, the combination of 7800X3D and the RX 9060XT leans toward comfortable headroom. The GPU doesn't chase extreme refresh rates on maximum settings across every title, but in everyday play it feels responsive and controlled. Cooling, noise, and build. The included 360mm liquid cooler does work here. Under extended load it maintains reasonable thermals around the CPU. Fans and the pump are audible during gaming, but they don't become distracting. It's not a whisper quiet rig, but it isn't overly loud either. For a performance-oriented desktop with liquid cooling, the acoustic profile sits in a practical range. The chassis has space and airflow that help the RX 9060XT stay within sensible thermal limits. I didn't see erratic temperature spikes or throttling in routine gaming sessions. Aesthetically, the RGB is present but not aggressive. It blends into a desk setup rather than shouting for attention. The build feels solid rather than flashy, which matches the balanced performance focus. Memory and storage practicality. 32GB of DDR5 RAM gives real breathing room for multitasking. Running games alongside a browser with many tabs, chat apps, and streaming in the background doesn't stretch this system thin. It's more than you strictly need for gaming today, but it helps with fluid switching and future-proofing. The 1TB Gen4 NVMe SSD makes load times fast and the system feel generally snappy. You get room for a sizable game library without juggling installs. If your collection grows a lot, additional storage could be a future consideration, but the included drive is practical for most builds. Limitations and trade-offs. Even with this capability, it isn't a 4K Ultra settings powerhouse for every title. The RX 9060XT excels at 1080p and handles many 1440p scenarios well, but in the most demanding games you'll be dialing back some settings to keep frame rates comfortable. That's expected at this GPU tier. Also, the system doesn't have every premium feature you might find in boutique builds. There's trade-off between value and bleeding-edge extras. That's intentional for a gaming desktop focused on core performance. Comparison to alternatives. Compared to balanced mid-range desktops, this Skytech unit offers smoother behavior in CPU-sensitive games thanks to the 7800X3D. Against builds centered around higher-end GPUs but less CPU headroom, you'll notice better consistency in scenarios where the CPU matters more, like open-world scenes or simulation titles. If you're evaluating self-build options, similar performance could be reached with carefully chosen parts. The upside of this Prebuilt is that you get a tuned system without part hunting or assembly. This makes sense for this configuration fits someone who wants strong 1080p gaming and capable 1440p performance, appreciates steady frame pacing over chasing peak numbers, values plenty of RAM and fast storage for multitasking, prefers a ready-to-go system without building from parts. It's less ideal if your priority is the absolute top GPU performance for 4K Ultra settings or if you want the smallest, quietest possible desktop. Closing thoughts. In everyday use, the Skytech Gaming Aqua desktop feels dependable and balanced. It doesn't promise performance outside its hardware realities, and within its class it handles modern gaming and multitasking without surprises. Check current pricing below and evaluate it against your needs.